Alright, so while we're waiting for the hot glue gun to heat up, I'm just going to take my little lens and a little cloth and some glass cleaner and get this cleaned up. Because you don't want, because once you glue it on there, if there's any smudges on the back side, they're going to be there. You'll have to break the glue, hopefully not break your lens, to get those smudges out of there. So we'll let the hot glue gun heat up, and then we'll get all this glued back onto the gauge. Okay, the glue gun's warmed up, so what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of glue around this outer perimeter right here that mates up with this surface here on the gauge. And I'm not going to do glue all the way around. I'm just going to do a little stitch of glue there, a little stitch of glue there, a little stitch there. So about 3 little stitches of glue, because this is going inside the truck, and I don't think it needs to be watertight. I'm not building a Jeep or an off-road vehicle, so I think that should be just fine. So we'll start putting a little glue on here. Okay, so we got a little bit of glue in our ring. Now just put it back on the gauge itself. Kind of squish it down. And that's another reason why you don't want to put a whole bunch of glue. It's because it actually dries up pretty quick. Then your gauge, then your little bezel thing doesn't sit flush against the gauge. So that's pretty good. The glue's already kind of dried up a little bit. So next, kind of wipe this off just a little. We'll take our little lens that we cleaned, put a little glue. We're going to put it right in this little crack. Hopefully I can get that light. You can see that little notch right there. That's where we're going to put the glue. I think I'm only going to do just a tiny bit. Those stringers are kind of irritating. That's the problem with hot glue. So we got a couple little glue spots. Take our lens, set it in place. Hopefully we'll be able to clean that glue off. Those little stringers are a pain in the butt, but we'll get those off here in a little bit. So now we got the glue, or the lens and the little bracket back attached to the gauge. Alright, now let me show you something real quick. This is the oil pressure gauge that we just finished. We used the hot glue to glue this little plastic retainer ring and then the lens back into place. Now, before I started making this video, I practiced just to kind of see how this would work. And this is my water temp gauge. And on this one, I use super glue. I have no earthly idea. I guess those are scratches, but they're on the inside. So super glue is definitely not the way to go with this. It took forever to get this plastic ring glued back to the base of the gauge. The glass actually glued to the plastic part real quickly, but it was just so messy, and I basically destroyed this gauge. It still works. I've plugged it in to the engine, and it still works. So to finish this project, I'm just going to go ahead and use this one to do all the mounting and everything behind the gauge bezel. But I will. This just looks terrible, so I'm going to have to shell out another $60-70 to get a new water temp gauge. So we got this removed. We'll do that to the rest of the gauges, and we'll put that in place. If you're careful with the glue, you won't ever see it back there behind the bezel. It'll be something about like that. So anyway, we'll get to work on the rest of the gauges and keep going on this project.